Okay, so in today's update about Jasmy, we are going to do at first a bit of a short-term analysis and see what is happening in this area, but that's not really going to be the focus of today's video. No, in this update, I want to talk about what is happening in terms of overall structures, starting from the lowest low, which I believe it was somewhere around 0.8 of a cent, because I do think JasmyCoin might be at a bit of a big moment and probably soon is going to be decision time. So with all that said, hi everyone, welcome back. I hope you're having a great time with your family and loved ones. And if you remember in the previous video, we were right around this area and the idea was, sure, maybe we are going to have like a 1 2 3 4 5 wave up in order to even take this high, but even at that point we shouldn't be overwhelmingly optimistic. Why? Because we talked about this, I believe also in the previous update, we said these lows are very close together, and I'm willing to bet that a lot of people have open long positions in these areas and they have put stop losses under the lows, and in most cases in those scenarios you are going to see a move down in order to hit all those stops and make a lot of people cry. So unfortunately, pretty much that happened, and I'm not happy about it. Okay, this is just the nature of the market. It does actually destroy most of the traders. Now, we didn't actually have this move up, which in it we said we might take this high. No, instead I'm gonna say maybe this was an ABC zigzag, something like this, excuse me, 5 wave up to about this point into an A, B, C, probably a flat into wave B, another 5 wave on the upside into our C leg. Also, we said it before, this is an A, B, C down. And if you want to consider this move on the upside instead of an impulse being an A, B, C zigzag, well, okay, then at that case, I think you may have a solid argument for a triangular structure starting from this point and ending to about this high. And let's just take this one. Okay, this can be ABC up into A, ABC down into B, ABC into C, ABC down into D, and another move on the upside into our E leg. Now, from this side, since in this region we may have a 1 2 3 4 5, okay, makes sense to say that we should be also looking for another 5 wave on the upside in order to, who knows, complete the subwaves for possibly an A, B, C zigzag. And based on that, I am thinking maybe we're having 5 down into 1, probably some sort of a flat and a zigzag maybe into wave 2, and yeah, okay, I guess you can say this is into our wave 3 correction for 4, and sure, maybe this is the end of our wave 5, but I'm not really going to count on that. I am willing to say this is probably 5 down into 1 correction for wave 2, and soon we may see another move down into wave 3 4 5, and that's actually going to be into our wave 5, and hopefully at that point our move down in Jasmy is over. And this, my friends, is the extent of short-term analysis that we are going to do in today's update. Now, maybe it's best to actually go on a less busy chart, maybe from Coinbase, because we want to talk about the overall structures in terms of Elliott waves starting from the lowest low about 0.8 of a cent. You see, we can have different possibilities in Jasmy, and let's go around here. The bottom line is, if you want to say we're going to have our final low around here, maybe this is like an important support, then okay, you need to be able to find off of the lowest low in here a 1 2 3 4 5 wave. This specific example is an impulse. Rules for it are we should not have overlapping of the waves between wave 2 and 4, and in any kind of 5 wave, our wave 3 should not be the smallest wave. Okay, this is a big no-no in Elliott waves. Now, sometimes we can have other types of 5 waves, and one example is a leading diagonal in form of a wedge, and it looks like this. This is our initial move up into wave 1, and it must be the biggest wave in this structure. Correction for wave 2, another move up into wave 3, it must be smaller than 1. Correction for 4. In here, unlike a normal 5 wave, we must have overlapping of the waves between our corrective movements, and also wave 4 must be smaller than wave 2, and this is our final move up into wave 5, which has to be the smallest wave in here. Another case of a 5 wave is an expanding leading diagonal, And this is, in that case, our initial move up into wave 1. And this time, it must be the smallest wave, unlike this thing in form of a wedge. Correction for wave 2, big move up into wave 3. It has to be bigger than 1. Correction for 4, it's going to be bigger than 2. And again, we must have once more overlapping of the waves. And this is our final move up into wave 5. And it has to be the biggest wave. Now, let's go on the live chart and count different structures starting from the lowest low and check our options. Okay, excuse me, there we go. So in JasmyCoin, one scenario suggests that maybe we are having from here 5 wave up into a wave 1, correction for wave 2, and we can say maybe we are on our way to have another big move up into wave 3, 4, 5, and the end of our wave 2, maybe it's going to be right around this region. Doesn't really matter. Now, if this is happening, then okay, odds are we are having yet another 102, this time on a lower degree relative to this 102 in here, and soon we have to see, again, this is the key, we have to see kind of a big move up into wave 3, 4, 5. That's why we said it also at the beginning of the video. This might be a bit of a do or die moment for Jasmy. Okay, now, can we have another scenario? Well, maybe. You see, if you want to say, okay, since in here we are having overlapping of the waves between this move down and also this one, then maybe we are having some sort of a diagonal structure. Well, okay, let's test them. Can this be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave up? Okay, let's start measuring some waves. And we should measure the length of our wave 5. And by the way, I forgot to say this. You need to, first things first, put your chart on regular scale, okay? There is no measuring waves and targets on logarithmic. That's just simply not a thing. Now, let's compare our wave 5 to wave 3. And as you can see, it's actually, yes, a bit bigger than wave 5. So this means in here, we are allowed to have an expanding leading diagonal. However, this is kind of a problem. Why? Because if this is an expanding leading diagonal, then okay, our wave 1 must be the smallest wave. However, it seems like based on measurements, wave 1 is clearly the biggest wave in here. Now, let's say, well, okay, by a very small margin, I am actually wrong, and wave 3 is bigger than wave 5, and in that case, well, okay, are we allowed to consider in here a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in form of a wedge? And since in a wedge, wave 1 is the biggest wave, wave 3 is smaller than wave 1, and at the same time, bigger than 5, okay, makes sense to say this is a wedge, right? Well, here's the deal. For our corrections for wave 2 and 4, if you remember, we said wave 4 must be, again, must be smaller than wave 2. Let's measure it from this point to about here. And let's compare it. Okay, as you can see, wave 4 by a very decent margin is clearly bigger than wave 2. So what is it that I'm trying to say? I'm trying to tell you from this point to about this high, there is pretty much zero shot for us to be able to find some sort of a diagonal. Doesn't matter whether it's going to be a wedge or maybe an expanding leading diag. And that leads us back to that 1-2 possibility that we talked about earlier. And what is the problem with that possibility? I'm going to say so far at least pretty much nothing. However, if we see a move down in Jasmy in the short term, and in that move we manage to take this important low about, let's say, 1.4 cents, at that point that 1-2 scenario is going to get invalidated, and unfortunately we have to be a bit careful. Why? Who knows? Maybe these are the subwaves for either an ABC or maybe a WXY, suggesting our move down in JasmyCoin might not be over. Now, sure, going down and taking this low does have this important message in it. However, in my opinion, there's like a much more important message, and we can say that is going to happen with a bit more confidence. What is that? Well, okay, you see, if we are having a series of 1-2s, and for example, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we are having in here another 1 and a 2, what is the next move? A massive one up, and basically in this phase, we are really not going to look back. However, if from here we get a move down in Jasmy and that 1-2 scenario gets invalidated, okay, at that point we need to say, because we want to be 100% objective, and at any given moment we should be able to come up with a bullish and bearish count at the same time, that maybe this is one, and then maybe like an A, B, C in form of an expanded flat into wave 2, which means we may actually go all the way down to these levels about like 1.1 cents area, and then we're gonna have another move up into wave 3, 4, 5, but building the 1-2 bullish setup in here once more, unfortunately, is going to take some time, and that is kind of the key. If we go down in Jasmy and take this low, at that point, even if we are looking bullish and optimistic and the low is truly already in, okay, I promise you having another 1 and a 2, meaning building this setup, is going to take some time. And it's really, in my opinion, not reasonable to expect from these areas like a very sharp move up in Jasmy. No, at that point, you just have to give it some time to play out. And that might be a bit annoying, and it may disappoint a lot of investors. That can, in my opinion, happen. That's why, like we said it at the beginning of the video, this might be a bit of a do or die moment in JasmyCoin, because if we do go down and take this low, at that point we need to really reconsider a lot of Elliott Wave canceling here, and not really for the better. So as long as we are not taking this low, I think we are allowed to be optimistic. On the other hand, if we take it, we need to be a bit patient, even according to the most bullish cat. And I hope I explained everything well and you understood what is going on in Jasmy's chart. Anyway, if you found any value in my content, I would really appreciate if you like this video and consider subscribing to my channel and follow me on Twitter. And if you want more, maybe you want a complete analysis for your own specific crypto, or maybe you want to learn some decent TA in order to be able to make good money in the markets, you can become a member and ask me anything you want. And until the next update, I hope you have a wonderful time. Goodbye.